The Glock 18C is the fastest firing weapon in the whole of Tarkov, surpassing that of both Vectors and the MP9N. But is it any good? Today we'll be finding out whether this gun is just a meme or actually usable. As you may well note, there are currently 3 Glock pistols in the game. There's the Glock 19X, the traditional Glock 17, and then finally the Glock 18C. And what makes the Glock 18C special over the other two is that it has the fun switch, both single fire and full auto. But the fact that it has a 1200 RPM, which is the single fastest firing gun in the entire game, does make it a bit of an enigma, given that it's a pistol, and you can see it has 288 recoil, so this does pose some questions. Where exactly you get this from is from Mechanic. You can buy them on the flea market as well, although in the hardcore wipe that doesn't seem to help as much because at the moment the flea is level 30, although it's probably going to come down over the next month or two. But only costing 33k at Mechanic 3 isn't actually that bad. Now there are 2 really important things about the G18C, which we'll look at in the modding section. It's 2 very important parts. The first one is this, which is the Glock Fab Defense GLR17 stock. And one of the reasons why the G18C doesn't get used that much is firstly because it is just a funny gun at the end of the day, but secondly because it got a very bad rap based on the old Tarkov recoil system. Back in the day, weapons jumped a lot more than they do now, and it was very hard to control. But with the new recoil system, even 288 vertical recoil actually isn't that bad. This mostly dictates how fast it moves up to a particular point and then it kind of stays there. But if you're using the stock chassis, this reduces it down to 217, which is a big improvement and makes it a lot easier to use. Now the second most important part about this gun is in here, which is the magazine selection. And you do have a very cheap, accessible way of getting the 50 round drum for 9x19 on this, which is also at Mechanic 3, which is okay because it means that we've probably got there in the first place to actually get to the Glock 18C. So I would just buy it from him for 73 euros. This is incredibly cheap, and you can buy it from the fleet too. There's a barter as well, but until you can get the gun, it's not really worth it. So this is where the gun really shines, because with the 1200 RPM, it is a total bullet hose. And the 50 rounders allow you to basically use this gun properly. Now one big advantage about these is that they are 1x2, so you don't need to have any special rigs or anything. You can just stack your loadout with these in a 1x2 way, just like you could with a 30 round M4 magazine, for example, which makes it a lot easier to use. Now something that I want to point out, and we'll just jump into DB for Tarkov for this a moment. Obviously this is decreasing our ergonomics a lot, but you can see that the overswing thing, because the weight of the gun is so low and the ergonomics is so high, it really is nowhere near having an overswing problem. So even using the 50 round drum magazine, you're not anywhere near close to having ergonomics problems, and this thing ADSs really quickly. But unfortunately, outside of these mods, there's not really that much you can do with it. Because the 18C lacks a threaded barrel, it means that there's no compensators or anything that you can put on there, so there's no suppressors and there's no way to reduce the recoil further than using the stock. There is a pistol grip here, the GTTG, the Pachmer Tactical Grip Glove. This comes on Skier too, but with 7 extra ergo from 73, it doesn't really matter. You can probably just put it on for style points because it hardly costs anything at all at only 8 euros, but there's really not much point. The main upgrade that you can make to this gun, if you really want to, is either a tactical flashlight or a laser of some kind, which is definitely useful in decreasing the point fire hip spread, because this gun is a little bit wild. So I'm just going to show you the difference between the consistency without having a flashlight on or not in point fire. This doesn't affect ADS, this only affects point fire, but sometimes you're going to be using it in that mode, and you're going to see the dramatic difference between it. So I'll show you first without a flashlight or laser at all. And by the way, this works for pretty much any flashlight that doesn't fit onto a ring mount. So the ring mounted ones don't work, but any others do. And we'll show you without the flashlight just to start with. You can see how inconsistent this is. So it kind of like flies up and down and all around and all over the place, which you actually can't really see from the final spray pattern, but if you watch it while it's going, it's definitely obvious. Now if we move across a little bit, and we're going to stay at the same place, I'll just let this cool down a little bit because last time it jammed on me. And I'll show you with the flashlight on, and I'll show you just how much more consistent this is. So sure, there's still some recoil, right? Because it's a high recoil gun, but you can see just how much better this recoil pattern is than this recoil pattern. It's way tighter. And if you're trying to hit somebody over any sensible, reasonable range, even at this kind of distance, a lot of these shots will be on target, whereas these ones won't be. And the other one is if you're using something like the GT Shark, then you can add various little micro dots on the front, something like a delta point. I quite like using it just with the irons. I find it a little bit easier with guns with very high recoil. And you can go and test this out if you have Arena, because you can just give it a go and see how it feels. There is one caveat that I would say about Arena that does make it quite difficult to go and test this gun, is that you can't access the 50 rounders because you have to play on marksman, and they don't have the 50 rounders available over there. And the second part is that you basically have to choose with this weapon, which we'll talk about in a sec, between going for leg meta with RIP or going for headshots with PvP. And the issue with Arena is that But because the map's quite small and they're very worked out, most people already know how to play them very, very well, and you're just going to die to AK-12s and M4s and that kind of thing much more easily than you would in the base game, which is a lot more unpredictable and random. So it's good to get a feel for the gun in Arena, but it won't work as well as it will in the base game actually, just because of the way that Arena plays out and the format that it's in. So let's just jump back to the ammo selections for a moment and go and link search here. With the hardcore wipe opening up, we basically have our full selection of ammo available again. So you can get PvP from Prapor level 4, although this is really, really expensive. And one of the things about PvP is that this was nerfed, I think, unnecessarily a couple of wipes ago, down from 52 damage to 44, which makes it really, really tough to use this at anything other than point blank because of its high speed. And weird quirk about 9mm is that it slows down very quickly, and because the slowdown is very high, it means the damage fall off is also very high, and the same with the penetration. So outside of about 10 to 20 meters, it's actually not that much better than AP 6.3, which is a little bit unfortunate. And this kept its 52 damage, which I think that PvP probably could have done, especially for this price, because not that many people use 9mm at this point in the wipe. It's very, very rare, so I just don't think it needed such a nerf. However, at close ranges, this is probably the best bet that you've got at going through level 4 helmets, because AP 6.3 at 30 pen just has no chance to go through really, unless you hit them directly in the face. But there's a lot of people using those class 4 helmets. Sometimes you even see CQCM masks. At the other end of the spectrum, we have RIP. This comes from Mechanic. You can't buy that much of it. It's like 144 if you have EOD, and I think 120 if you have standard because of that small ammo increase, which I still disagree with, but it is what it is. And these deal 102 damage, obviously with a tiny penetration of 2 or something. So if someone is wearing a mask, even something very basic like the Shattered mask, it'll probably bounce off. So if we do a quick calculation here, and we're going to have a look at the 102 damage. First shot deals 102, but it's only 65 first, and then what's left is 37. So we deal 65 damage first, and then we have 37 spillover, and then this gets reduced by 70%, which turns into effectively 26. And so the total damage from the first shot is 91. And then every subsequent shot after that is the 102 times by 70%, which is 71.4. So shot 2 is 162.4. Shot 3 is 233.8. Shot 4 is 305.2. Shot 5 is 376.6. And shot 6 is 448 damage, which does finally kill our PMC. So you can see how this like 70% reduction on the leg does actually change the calculation quite a lot. So it takes a lot more hits than you might think. If you look at 102 and you think, oh, well, that's going to kill him 5, but it's actually 1 extra bullet than that because of this 70%. Now this works out pretty well for the G18C because you've got 1200 RPM, so you can spray out 6 bullets incredibly quickly. And this also works on bosses as well, as you'll see in one of the clips in a moment. The only issue is that unless you've been quite organized and you've been buying your allocation every single time you've come on, you'll kind of run out because this is really only 3 magazines worth without any top-ups. So what you can also do is you can spread this out with Quake Maker as well. So you can go and buy a bunch of Quake, and then when you're filling your magazines, you can basically take however much you want, 25 Quake Makers with the rips on top. So you do 25 and 25, and that just makes it go much further, like double the raids or something. Quake Maker is not too bad, which is 85, which is more like 8 shots rather than 6. But if the choice is between just not being able to run the gun and using something that's kind of semi-adequate, then running Quake Maker underneath does make sense. And it's what I did in some of my raids as well. It's also worth checking out just how accurate this is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to try and control this for the second one, and I'm not going to control it for the first one. So we're just going to ADS while stood up. Obviously you can also get a recoil improvement if you crouch as well, so you can go and test that yourself. But I'm going to show you what it looks like just in ADS from here. So pretty spray, but not too bad. And I'm going to try and show you how easy it is to control this initial spray, because once you've got over this first couple of bullets, really it just stays on target after that. So it's mainly about the pull down in the first section, and then after that you can just sort of leave it and let it blast. So all in all, for the fire rate of this gun, that's not too bad. I mean, that probably is about the limit of its accuracy rating that you want to be shooting over. Probably this is a little far. Really, you want to be fighting a bit more closely like this with it, especially if you're going for leg metal or something. So next up, we'll check out how it performed in a few recent raids. All right, let's get the show onto the road. We've got to kill like one more PMC with rippies, so we'll just see how it goes. Oh no. Where's Tag? Oh gosh. Oh! There was a... There was in fact a man in here. So who's nading me from up there? I wonder what Tequila is. Where is this guy? Not scavs or like real players? We're gonna bait him in, my friends. Come on, baby. Don't really want to use my grip on this guy. Is Tequila throwing the nades or like what gives? Someone's up there. I kind of wanted to come this way. Oh, I see him there. Ow! Oh. Dead people here. Well, I've got a quest to leave out of this for Skier, so may as well just do it. I've seen this playbook before, Sonny Jim. I've seen that playbook before. Hmm. Yeah. I'm actually basically out of ammo. Apparently not. Ugh. Where's Tequila? Kind of want to find Tequila. least I think I do. Where is he? Much further over here? There he is. Ow. No. Come on. No. What did he kill me with? I'm wearing the tequila helmet. What the hell, man? Nape? Nape? With what? Shotgun? We killed each other somehow. We somehow managed to trade at point blank. How's it even possible?